Alright, so this is the plus minus problem on HackerRank. So essentially what this problem is you're given an array of integers. So an example here is an array of 5 integers, 1, 1, 0, -1, and -1. Essentially, we have to calculate the ratio of positive, negative, and 0 elements in relation to the total number of objects in the array. So essentially, we can traverse through the array and in O(n) time, and essentially have a counter for positive, negative, and 0 values, and put that together to find our ratio. So in this case, the ratio for positive values, since there's only 2 positive values, would be 0.4. 2 negative values, the -1 and -1, would be also 0.4. Since there's only 1 0, the ratio would be 0. So we're going to head over to the whiteboard, and I'll just show an example of how we're going to traverse over the array and add to. Alright, so I have our example array here, so we have 1, 1, 0, -1, and -1. So essentially we could have a for loop which just iterates over it. So let's say this is called array, right? So we have array equals this. So we have for I in array. And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to go to each value in this array, and it's going to increment the counter of this by 1 every time. We have 0, 0, and 0. So for I in array, we have I over here, it'll point to 1. So in I array, if I is greater than 0, then we just say p plus equals 1. So now the p will go up by 1. And then if I, or else if, since it will be not positive, if I is less than 0, it'll say n plus equals 1. And then we just have an else statement because the only condition where it will be greater than 0, or not greater than 0, or not less than 0 is if it's 0 itself. So we'll just have a case for that. So essentially we iterate through. So if we iterate from the first value to the second value, we go from p1 to p2. So p will now equal to 2. We go to the next value, we have 0. So now since 0 fits in this category, it'll go through these. It will go to the last one, z plus equals 1. So we essentially have z equals 1. We go to the next value, we have I equals -1. And now since it is negative, it'll increment n by 1, so we get 1. We go to the next value, and we get I. And that just increments by 2. So now we have our values. We have p equals 2, n equals 2, and z equals 1. And essentially, we get the length of the array. To get the ratio, we need part over whole. So we get the length of the array. So length of the array in Python will equal to, in this case, will equal to 5, right? Because there's 5 values. So I say n equals length array. And now we essentially just take these values and divide it, and we'll go over to the code in order for specifics, but right now we could just say print p over n, and like we switch this to like j, right? We have p over j, n over j, and z over j, in that order respectively. All right, so now let's code it up and let's look at the solution. All right, so essentially we have our code from the board. Initialize the p, n, and z variables, increment them accordingly based on traversing through the array, what values we have. Now essentially we want to print them individually. So now we have print round, since we need to round to 6 decimal places as stated in the problem right here. So see, these are all 6, right? So we have round, and we want to make it a float just to make sure it doesn't truncate any values that we might need. So we have p over j. And we make sure we exit out of the float parentheses, and we get 6 as our argument for the rounding. And we can repeat this for the other 2 values. So we have print round float p over j, 6. This one we have n, and then we have z. And that's the order that's being asked here, since it's positive, negative, and zeros, right? So let's just run the code. All right, so it works. And now let's go ahead and submit the code just to make sure all the test cases work out. And as you can see, it works. So what you want to do, this is pretty basic. The time complexity is O of n, and since we're not adding any additional large amounts of space, it is pretty efficient with space as well. So yeah.